Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's guest, Esther Nicholson. I'm Melissa Minnich, author of High on Life, A Prescription for Bliss, and live event host for Humanity's Team, a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. And I'm coming to you live from Austin, Texas. We're excited to have Esther join us today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, so grateful to have you here. And where are you connecting from today?
I live now currently in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, lovely. I
Yeah.
want to welcome Esther's audience, the Scene Network, those streaming live through their Humanities Team Facebook platform, YouTube channel, and Stream Plus members that are here in the green room with us. Thanks for being members, and some of them are on camera. Welcome, everyone. Because it's a live program, we'll have time for comments and questions. So try to get your question in within the first 30 to 40 minutes of the program. Post it in the chat, and you'll get your question answered. Are you ready to feel the life force that you truly are and reclaim your awesomeness? Our guest, Esther Nicholson, by luminaries including Michael Bernard Beckwith, Colin Tipping, and John Randall Price. With nearly 40 years of recovery, Esther brings her extraordinary journey to her work as a renowned keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, and soul recovery, She Recovers coach, specializing in healing shame, trauma, and emotional dependence. Her teachings have inspired audiences worldwide at major conferences, treatment centers, and spiritual communities. She's also a celebrated vocal artist. Esther has toured internationally with Rod Stewart and Bette Midler and appeared on Oprah, The Tonight Show, The View, Good Morning America, and Ellen. Her extraordinary story of recovery networks Super Soul Sunday in Deep Shift. At the heart of all her work, Esther's intention is simple and profound to remind us that we're not here merely to recover from trauma, shame, or addiction in all of its forms, but to recover and rediscover our essential nature of wholeness. Welcome, Esther. You've lived such a profound journey from addiction and trauma to soul based leadership. What was the moment that awakened you to the truth that sent you on this journey to recovery and now sharing this mission with the world?
Well, as you mentioned in my bio, I have 40 years of recovery from substance abuse. And on that journey in my recovery, I realized I really became clear that the drugs and the food addiction and the addiction to relationships and all of those external addictions, that
Mm,
they were the symptoms of something much deeper going on.
mm,
And then I remembered that my first addiction was to fear and anxiety,
mm,
that I couldn't remember a time in my life when I wasn't afraid. And and so I was just very, very committed to the core principles of the 12 steps of recovery. But I found myself 15 years ago when Soul Recovery was created, I found myself still stuck in that little girl fear and just chronic anxiety and feelings of hopelessness and doom. And I was 25 years in recovery at that time. And I was what they call a 12-step thumper. It's like I was working the 12 steps. I was doing metaphysical work and, learning more and experiencing more about my relationship with the divine. But I was stuck. And I tell people I wasn't suicidal, but I was at a place where I just could not see myself continuing to live life stuck in those kinds of emotions and trying to manage and cope with those
mm,
kinds of emotions that I was feeling. And then I realized for the first time in my recovery and for the first time in my life that I'd been living with unhealed trauma,
mm, mm,
that my recovery just did not address that the 12 steps of recovery are not designed to address unhealed trauma, and metaphysics alone are not designed to heal unhealed trauma, nor is mysticism. But
mm,
when I had to look at all of these teachings and all of these practices and modalities, including some of the latest developments in brain science, and put that together to heal, I call it healing my boo, healing my little girl, healing that part of me that was just constantly on the floor in the fetal position, even when I looked good.
Mhm.
That created the birth of soul recovery. So just putting all of that together and recovering and rediscovering who I was before it had been numbed out by trauma and addiction.
Mm.
So that
So
was my awakening moment. And
thank you. And so beautiful. And I want to touch on the point that you said, what you came to realize through your addictions is that your addiction was to fear. And we have very similar stories in that I was an international drug trafficker and I was addicted but I found out that my addiction was to love. And so I was in the same, this like journey of going through and nobody talked about the trauma. And like, I never did the 12 steps. I found another way, but it was like, the addiction below the addiction is never about those. It's the fear, it's the love, it's the little one that never got taken care of. It's all of these different pieces that come from this need or want for something. And right now I see in society, and I wonder if when I say addiction, when I see it this way, it's not just to drugs and alcohol, it's to social media, to work, it's to the way that we live in society, addicted to success, addicted to the next like, that we get and stuff like that. It's that search and that need for something so much greater. And it's but yet it's based in, like you said, yours was based in fear. It was based in this other thing.
yeah, based in fear. And I love what you said about the addiction beneath the addiction, because the addiction that's even beneath the addiction of fear is the addiction to the belief that you're separate and apart from God.
Yes.
And that's what soul recovery, the
Mhm.
recovery of my soul, the recovery of your God self, individualized as you. When we can recover and rediscover that by pulling back the layers of illusion and trauma and fear and false beliefs, then what's left? What is revealed is your soul. What is revealed is your true essence. And that's what soul recovery is about. It's not about recovering from all of the addictions that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
It's about the recovery and rediscovery of that which you were created to be before you forgot.
Yeah. It's the remembering of who you are at your core, that you already were and always have been. It's that alignment to that. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
beautiful. So your work integrates the 12 steps, neuroscience, EFT, somatic practices, spirituality. What was missing from those traditional healing modalities that you felt had to be included in soul recovery?
Well, definitely the somatic healing
Mhm.
and the transparency of what it is that you are experiencing and what it is that you are suffering from. I was raised as a Baptist minister's daughter. And so that whole religion, which is beautiful, but there are certain blind spots in it where you don't acknowledge your shame, you don't acknowledge your sexual abuse, you don't acknowledge the stuff that you're going through. You just go to Jesus. And then metaphysics has another blind spot where if you're experiencing something, you just look through the appearance and know that God is all that there is and affirm your way into wholeness.
Mm.
And I remember the day I sat on my bed in the lotus position and just asked my beloved inner child, sweetheart, what is it? What is it? And
Mm.
she said, I'm devastated. I'm lonely. I'm a mess. I hate myself. And it was like, whoa, in the spiritual teachings that I grew up in, and even in the 12 steps, it's about not being selfish. It's about being of service to others. And while all of that is ultimately true, I found out that if you don't deal with your stuff is going to deal with you. So
Mm.
one of the pieces that was missing is doing a spiritual bypass on what's really going on with you and honoring what's really going on with you and embracing what's really going on with you, not giving yourself permission to pull over and park there, but to give that untapped energy that's operating in your nervous system, in your unconscious mind, a voice so that it can be acknowledged, loved, and healed, and then ultimately dissipated into your wholeness. So that is a piece definitely that's missing in traditional teachings. And then, of course, the somatic healing and the brain science practices to rewire and reset your brain from all the trauma that you've been through, and those conditioned patterns, those hardwired beliefs are very important to unify with the accountability and the structure
Mhm.
of the 12 steps, working with your calming your nervous system, resetting your brain, uprooting false beliefs and emotions from your unconscious mind, and then anchoring and reconnecting to the divine self.
Mm, mm. And I love that you're bringing in the physical and the body and the understanding, like it's as above, so below. So many people they're doing that, in recovery, doing spiritual traditions, it's all about like, let's connect to this thing that's up here. But first, it is the descent, right? It's the body, it's the physical, it's the descending into the shadow, descending into the trauma, looking at those things, building it from the ground up. And then that connection, it can be solid and you're not having the triggers, you're not having the things that are going on because you've cleared the energy that's already available for you. So
Absolutely.
you Go
Absolutely.
ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, in your own work, and thank you for sharing that with me, that the frequency of your highest self is unlimited. And it's
Mhm.
always there because it is you.
Yeah.
It is the truth of you. But your unhealed trauma, your false beliefs, your illusions of separation are operating at a much lower frequency, right?
Mhm.
So it's not that the real you is not available to you. You just don't have access to it from this consciousness. So you have to acknowledge it and then start processing your way home.
Yes,
Yeah.
beautiful. So you've taken this work that you do and you've created this course for humanities team. It's a 21-day journey. And I know it's not just another self-help program, right? It's a whole energetic system. You want to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, we know that it takes about 3 weeks for the brain to start, for the cells to start giving in to this new habit, to this new thought pattern, to this new way of being, and for the brain to kind of give, the cells and the brain to give each other permission to like, okay, maybe we
Mhm.
relax a little bit, and the unconscious mind a chance to start clearing out. So it's a 21-day daily practice, daily teachings, audio meditations, 2-minute audio meditations, because some people have a hard time with meditating for an hour or even 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but
Mhm.
to guide them through tapping and somatic healing where they can calm the nervous system into the stillness, and then listen to a 2-minute meditation every single day,
Mhm.
an affirmative word. And there are a lot of us who we do affirmations from a place of vain repetition, where we're saying the right words from this frequency but we're really hanging out in this frequency. So you might feel the power, the relief, up here for a few minutes, and then you default right back to what you've been conditioned to believe. So in the 21 day, it's 21 day of daily practice of EFT videos, of meditation audios, of journaling prompts, and of affirmative word. And it's
Mhm.
self-paced. So, if you want to take 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes at night to do it, that's great. If you want to take an hour and a half in the morning and like, I'm going to take an hour and a half and do this spiritual practice, but you get to create what works for you in your life. And if you are consistent,
Mhm.
something starts to change. Even within 7 days, you'll start to feel a connection happening. You'll start to feel lighter. You'll start to feel less hopeless and more possibility.
Mhm.
So I wanted to create something that was a no-brainer for people, where that took all the guesswork out of
Mhm.
it. I think that so many people want to do spiritual practice and they're like, where do I start? Like, there's so much stuff out there. Like, what do I do? So I'll grab this, I'll grab this, I'll grab that. And the 21 days is like just saying, here's your day one.
Mhm. That's beautiful.
Your meditations, your reading, your affirmative word. Here's your day two. Your tapping. Here's your day three. And so it just takes all the guesswork out of that. and you get to bear witness as you just start to feel differently.
It's so beautiful. I love it. Let's cue our first clip. Welcome to the journey. Baby. Okay, well, when we're ready for the first clip, I think
Your soul, which is your authentic self, has often been blocked and obscured by false beliefs, low vibrational emotions, and unhealed trauma. But just like the sun is always shining behind the clouds, your soul is very much alive and shining bright deep within you. But how do we reconnect to our souls when we're so confused and overwhelmed by reading every self-help book we can get our hands on, attending every workshop, and seeking to apply every healing modality we can find, only to discover that we're still lost, we're still desperate, and we're still disconnected? That's why I felt called to create this simple, step-by-step 21-day program, which removes the guesswork and guides you effortlessly towards the path that is uniquely right for you. Well, how do I know that this program is uniquely right for you, even though we've never met? Well, because every practice, every exercise is designed to speak directly to your individual consciousness. The universe within you holds the divine blueprint of your life, knowing exactly where healing needs to happen. Your transformation is unlike anyone else's because you are one-of-a-kind expression of the divine. This 21-day comprehensive, evidence-based program combines guided meditations, prayers, affirmations, and targeted journal prompts to activate the frontal lobe, helping you to ask yourself new questions about yourself and become open to transformative answers. The program also includes 7 emotional freedom technique EFT videos, utilizing one of the most powerful brain-based methods for calming the amygdala in the brain, soothing the nervous system, and releasing false beliefs, unhealed trauma, and destructive patterns.
If I would have known we were going to show that one, I would have worn a different top.
I mean, I think it just shows the beautiful consistency of it all, right? Like you look great in that color. It's your
I
color.
like that.
Yeah, it's your color. Like, go for it. I have a couple. I do this all the time. I have a couple of like tops that I always go to because the color looks good. You're
Right.
great. So many of our listeners, I'm sure, they've tried all the things. They've done the therapy, the affirmations, the health self book, the self-help books, the recovery. They still feel stuck. What can you say about your program, the Soul Recovery, and this, and how someone that's like tried everything, ready to give up, but they're almost there. What would you say to someone like that about this?
Say that consciousness is just an amazing thing, that I created this program when I was at that wall of I had tried everything and I
Mm,
was feeling hopeless and I had no place else to go. I
mm,
had to have something that was going to really get in and go deep where I particularly needed it. And
mm,
that's when people usually come to me as private clients, and or they're looking for my work. They're like, I've tried everything. So by the time people get to soul recovery, they are really, really willing and ready to go to a level that they have not had access to before. And I tell people, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So usually when people are at that place of, I'm at the end of my rope and I have no place else to go, and I really need to heal, is when they come to soul recovery.
mm,
They're
mm.
ready to rediscover who they really are And, one of the tenets of soul recovery is completely, so this is your control, this is your resistance. So, one of the principles of soul recovery, which is the first step of recovery, is completely letting go,
Mhm.
is admitting that the part of yourself that is in the problem, that's in the addiction, that's in the addictive emotions, that's in the false beliefs, that just can't get unstuck, that same consciousness is not the consciousness that's going to heal you. So it's almost like you're giving up, but really what you're doing is giving in to a part of you that you haven't seen or felt in a very long time.
Mm. Beautiful.
So it's actually when you're at that place of, I have no place else to go. I'm feeling hopeless. I'm feeling doomed. That's your blessing place. That's the pivotal place of, like, that's where your soul is like, oh great, now we can shine because you're out of my way.
Mhm.
So that's one of the biggest principles of soul recovery, is giving yourself permission to get out of your own way because you're ready to do a level of practice and trust and releasing that maybe you haven't ever done before.
Beautiful. One of the things that you talk about in that clip is the emotional freedom technique, the EFT, and you said that there's 7 different like modules or videos on that. Can you share a little bit more about what EFT is and how that works in our energy systems, and then maybe even if we could have a little taste of it?
Sure. So the emotional freedom technique is a combination of Chinese acupuncture and spiritual psychology, where as we tap on the meridian points, and we have millions of meridian points all over our bodies, but I use the karate chop, I use the third eye, I use inside of your eyebrow, outside of your eyebrow, your orbital bone, under your nose, your chin, and your collarbone. And then we grab our wrist, inhale deeply, and exhale on peace. And what tapping does is it brings into your awareness, out of your unconscious mind, what you may not have been aware of before. It just opens up your unconscious mind to give voice to the static energy or the unvocalized or inarticulated energy that's stuck in your body. And so it taps on releasing beliefs, emotions, and patterns, because that's the law of attraction, right? What you believe, you feel. What you feel, what you dominantly feel, what your dominant emotions are, creates a vibratory frequency, which then creates the manifestation, the experience, the effect. So in tapping, we acknowledge the problem, we acknowledge whatever it is that we're experiencing, and then we tap on the emotions that you may not have even recognized or known that you had, and then we tap on the beliefs that's underneath the emotions, and then we defrag, or we rewire immediately to a happy place, which is disrupting the familiar thought patterns and the familiar conditioning in the brain. And then we come back to the problem, rating ourselves again, and seeing just how far we can get. Can we take ourselves from a 10 to a 0? And once we take ourselves to a 0, it's important now to replace that, what you have just released, with what is true, and to start practicing that. And a lot of people, when they tap themselves to a 0, and then they go right back to the same behavior and undo the amazing work that they've done. So that's what tapping is. It articulates what you have not yet been able to articulate. It brings into your awareness what has been stuck into your unconscious mind, hidden from your awareness. It gives voice to your energy. It taps into unhealed emotions and false beliefs, which then heals destructive patterns.
Mhm. Yeah.
I know I can get really passionate about this, and
Oh, I feel you. And EFT is really it's such a powerful technique, which is why I wanted to share about it. My dear friend Dawson Church, who is a scientist, has worked with over 20,000 military in the military with the trauma, and they've been doing scientific studies that it's more effective for PTSD than anything else out there. So the truth of this thing is like we think, like that's why I want to share the simple technique, something that sounds like, oh, I'm just tapping. It's not a pill, it's not a potion, it's anything. But it literally so healing for the body. And putting this kind of energetic and somatic practices into your program is life changing. It's completely transformational.
Absolutely. So when I work with people, and of course we're practicing the structure, the accountability, and the healing principles of the 12 steps of recovery. But
Mhm.
while we're doing that, we're going even deeper and we're tapping all through that. And then we're doing inner child work, and then we're doing affirmative prayer,
Mhm.
and just putting and then we're going into mysticism from that place, which is ultimately only the truth about you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the only truth that there is about you.
Hmm.
But in order to get there, we have to get through these layers. And then once you get there, then you realize, oh, my addiction doesn't exist.
Hmm.
Abandonment doesn't exist. Only this exists. I am exuberant. I am clear. I am divine and perfect order. And now you can believe it because everything within you lines up with that truth.
Yeah. One of the things that we know to be true is that trauma and emotions get stuck in the body and it creates dis-ease, disease, right? Like and so many people that have had trauma, have unhealed things from their past, then later in life it shows up as a physical experience in the body because it's been in the field, it's been in the energy systems for so long, and then it becomes solidified so that it shows up in the densest of matter, which is that physical being. And so we're going to play our next clip, Radiant Health, and then we're going to come back and talk about this powerful impact that healing your body can happen through this too.
Have you experienced the nocebo effect? It's the opposite of the placebo effect, where no matter what treatments or tests you try, your belief that healing isn't possible keeps you from fully recovering. Think about how much energy and money you've spent trying to fix your health. It's exhausting and disheartening. Let's start shifting that belief today. So I'm inviting you to acknowledge the health challenges that you are facing today, maybe even on a chronic level, and how much they're interfering with your life, your business, your natural flow, your activity. Feel the sadness, the frustration, the anxiety, the fear, the feelings of being betrayed by your body. All of those emotions that are usually unspoken and hidden in your cells, your nervous system, and your unconscious mind, yet they are the driving force of your health today. So I want you to take a moment and rate your frustration or your emotional pain on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being, I've hit a wall. Honor your feelings without judgment. Just feel into all of that frustration and pain. Grab your wrist, inhale deeply, and let go on peace. And then you're going to tap on the side of your hand and repeat after me. Even though I am so tired of this health issue, I'm so frustrated and worn out, and I deeply and profoundly acknowledge this is how I feel. Even though I'm exhausted by this pattern of illness, I deeply and profoundly accept myself.
Wow, that's so powerful. I can remember that I used to be on that scale of 1 to 10, a 10. And that 10, I had eczema, herniated discs, sometimes could barely walk. All of these things going on in my physical body. And then when I discovered what it was connected to, like I'm now a 0. And I think that that's the power of what you're showing people here today. And you did that tapping exercise. So let's dive deeper into this, like the body and the trauma and how the physical things show up in our systems and the power of working through this for radiant health.
Right. Well, the body keeps the score. It really does.
Mhm.
And again, sharing that if you don't deal with your stuff is going to eventually deal with you. It's going to show up as chronic illness, as insomnia, as inflammation, as chronic health issues, and you're just spending money after money and on shoe boxes of prescription medication, like my brother was, and at the doctor's office like all the time, several times a week, or at least every week, and you still can't get well. And you wonder why. And then you start mourning and grieving your health and this deep sense of sadness that your body has betrayed you and that you're not well and you can't do the things that you used to do. And to be able to even tap on those emotions releases some of the physical experiences that you're having. I've had a client who's come to me like completely out of 10 in her pain body. And by the time we tapped on the frustration, the irritation, the feeling of doom and desperation, the fear, the anxiety, the grieving, the mourning, the feeling betrayed by her body, the sadness, all of that, by the time we tapped that out of her nervous system, and then the beliefs that she had to carry on her family legacy of being sick. Sometimes we carry on our intergenerational conditioning. I know that everybody in my immediate family were always sick about something. And
Mhm.
even though I was the healthy one, or I thought more healthy thoughts, I didn't know that I had somehow taken that belief on unconsciously because I wasn't consciously thinking about it. But Sigmund Freud says that 90% of the unconscious of the iceberg is beneath sea level. And so from a place of deep humility and desperation, I had to start tapping on, even though sickness is all I saw in my family, the ambulance coming to my house all the time, my mom always complaining about not feeling well, and maybe somehow I've embodied that belief in my body. And
Mhm.
what if it's safe to let it go?
Mhm.
What if it's safe to let go of this illness in my body? What if it's safe to release the belief that I'm somehow betraying my family
Mhm.
by being the one that's well? So you would be amazed at the beliefs that we hold on to that's keeping you stuck in illness. And when you start articulating them, tapping them out, acknowledging the emotions and acknowledging the beliefs, and then giving yourself permission, giving your nervous system, giving your cells, giving whatever part of you that's hurting, giving it permission to return and restore to its original imprint of wholeness, you'd be amazed at how your body's just waiting for you to tell it what to do and to give it permission on what to do.
One of the things you talk about in that clip is the nocebo effect and the stories that we're telling ourselves. And I feel that the nocebo effect, that story we're telling ourselves, is always a lot of times connected to our childhood. And you were talking about that inner child work. So how does somebody rewrite the story? Is that we have the tapping, but are there other things that when I'm rewriting that story or changing that story about my childhood and then working with that inner child that I can do that will help me to shift that story?
Well, one of the ways, like I said, the first step of recovery is first of all admitting that I of myself, the part of me that's in the pain, the part of me that's in the story, is not the consciousness that's going to heal the story. Scripture says you can't pour new wine into old skin. So I
Mhm.
can't create a new story when I've embodied the old story. So to admit, and I invite everyone to just put your hands on your heart and just look at those places within you that's stuck physically, financially, in your business, in your life, wherever you are. And from a place of humility, you're not admitting personal power. You're not You're not affirming personal powerlessness. You're acknowledging that everything you've done to date has not worked. So just look at all those places where you're struggling and feel all of that resistance that's keeping it in place, and acknowledge to yourself, I admit that I am powerless over it. Yay. I don't have to heal it. I don't have to fix it. I don't have to figure it out. Yay. I admit that I am powerless. And then you do an inventory on it and looking at your belief systems around whatever it is that you're going through and what you believe is creative, even if it's not true. So you want to look at the beliefs that you're holding on to that's been creative of your experiences so far. And through tapping, release those beliefs, release those emotions. And once you release those beliefs and those emotions, now there's possibility for a new story to be created. And you're not being woo woo, and you're not BSing yourself, for lack of a better word, of saying, this is no longer my story. This is my story now. What you're doing is you're using your imagination, you're using your nervous system, you're using your God self authority to create something new and higher at a higher frequency than the story that you've been living in.
Mm.
And the 21-day program is a wonderful way to start doing that, because every day that you do the program, you're calming the nervous system, you're rewiring your brain, and you're giving your higher self now room to declare itself and to speak itself in your life, where you're not feeling like you're just saying all these affirmations and they're meaningless and they're a dead experience. You're actually feeling the power of them, and they're giving you the power and the willingness and the clarity to create a new story.
Mm.
A new story of, I am healthy, I sleep through the night, my body is free from pain, I feel more like myself than I've felt in years. I feel exuberant and I feel with vigor and vitality. But you're not just saying these affirmations to make them true, they feel true, which allows you to say the affirmation.
Mhm. Yeah. One of the beliefs or stories that is pervasive through our collective consciousness is this idea around aging and worthiness. Like
Oh,
we were talking about radiant health and that and how the physical, but now this other piece is like we have it they're in the collective, like that you have to grow old and take medications and that you're going to be sick and that, oh, I'm now 45, my eyesight's going to go, like, right, all that kind of stuff that has been this cultural thing that we've been told that's been passed down that is actually not true. And that's also connected to how worthy am I. And so I think this is one of the most powerful ones that we can look at, because I think this affects not just women but everyone. And like, if I can grow old gracefully, how powerful is that?
oh, absolutely. And we all have the power to do that when we turn away from the collective consciousness of error thoughts, mistaken thoughts. That the collective consciousness around aging is a belief that has been so practiced into manifestation, into reality, that
Mhm.
it feels true and it looks true, but it's still an illusion. And you get to personally say, I am not having it with that illusion anymore. I'm not I'm not giving in to that illusion anymore. I'm giving in to that part of myself that is ageless, birthless, and deathless. Now, that doesn't mean that your physical body is not going to season in this lifetime and will release itself when it's time. But I love what Deepak Chopra said about his dad, who was in his 90s, when he was out working and doing everything that he wanted to do. And he just came home one day, sat in the chair, and said, it's time. And he made his transition. And I think that we all have the power to do that, that there is nothing in the universe that says that you have to suffer.
I agree. And I've noticed that we, in my own school, we actually test the telomeres of our students at the beginning of their program and at the end, and every single one of them gets younger. And myself, like I'm 48 and I've had my telomeres tested. I'm right around 34 right now. And so I know like you can reverse your aging. So we're going to watch this clip from The graceful aging from the graceful aging and self-worth section of the 21-day journey.
Our beliefs about ourselves create our emotions, and our emotions shape our experiences. If you believe that you're old, unattractive, or not valuable, you'll feel those emotions, and your life will reflect those emotions back to you. But if you believe that you're ageless, vibrant, beautiful, wise, and more than enough, you'll feel empowered, confident, and radiant, and your life will blossom in alignment with that truth. So to assist you in getting there, let's do some EFT and tap on the negative beliefs and emotions that hold you back. Let's clear the fear, the shame, and the resistance so that you can fully embrace seasoning into your most radiant and vibrant season. Find a quiet place where you can have some privacy. And once you've done that, I invite you to take a deep healing breath by grabbing your wrist. Inhale deeply and exhale on the word peace. Bring into your awareness all of your honest emotions and beliefs about your seasoning process, the changes you're seeing in your body. Maybe you're seeing some wrinkles or less tone in your muscles. Perhaps you're experiencing weight gain or weight and hair loss, health challenges that are connected to aging. Think of how you really feel when you look in the mirror. Just be honest about it and rate your emotions on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being the most judgmental, the most resistant, sad, angry. And where would you say you are on that scale? And now let's start tapping. As we bring our 2 index fingers to our karate chop, repeating after me. Even though I can't believe how much I've aged, I don't even recognize myself. And I deeply and profoundly accept that this is how I really feel.
So I believe that the aging is definitely something that women feel more than men. Like men are, it's okay for men to, age more gracefully than women. But is there a specific belief for men that is something that they really stick to?
Absolutely. Men go through the same thing, maybe in a different way, maybe not as intensely, but
Mm,
men feel that same sense of, not every man, but a lot of men, just like not every woman, but a lot of, the collective consciousness is I'm not as viral. I'm not as sexy. I'm not as healthy. I can't do the things I used to do. So therefore I'm valued and valuable. And one of the words that I don't think that I mentioned in that clip was the deep feeling of shame.
mm,
And it's $1 trillion, the anti-aging industry is $1 trillion industry where people are obsessed with changing their looks or preserving their looks. And I don't have anything against that, but when I see addiction, I recognize it. When I see someone who every time you turn around, they're getting a new procedure done, I have such compassion for it because I've experienced my own pain and shame around aging, that I've had to do some deep healing and deep tapping on. And if someone is actually going under the knife and doing that multiple times, I just take my own pain and multiply it in them like by 100. It's like, wow, that is just such a sad way to feel about yourself.
yeah.
That the only way that you can love yourself and feel valuable and sexy and empowered is if, I have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on surgeries to alter my looks. And it's definitely an addictive pattern, and it comes from a deep core belief of being separate from your God self, of being separate and apart from God, that you're enough,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know?
So one of the other pieces, so we've talked about our health and how we can heal the physical body. We've talked about this aging and self-worth, but there's another piece. You can this even in this soul recovery, work on your financial freedom and your inner security. Like we got all the things going on here. So we're going to play clip number 4 around financial freedom, and then we're going to come back and talk about money, because money is one of the biggest spiritual teachers of our time right now.
Yes,
Mm,
absolutely. Love to talk about money trauma.
yes, we're going to
Ready?
do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hello, my friend. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to tap into financial freedom. If you're watching this, it's probably because you've struggled with financial patterns like boom or bust cycles, under-earning, undervaluing yourself, or always feeling like you're playing catch up. Perhaps you find yourself constantly in debt or worrying about bills, which creates stress and unease in your nervous system. You might even notice how your body reacts to money issues, like maybe a tightness in your chest, shoulders, or a sinking feeling in your gut when you open a bill or when you see a bill in the mailbox. These physical responses reveal your underlying relationship with money. Today, we're going to tap on transforming that relationship by addressing deep-rooted beliefs and emotions around finances. These beliefs might stem from your childhood or past experiences, like my own realization that I subconsciously believed that it wasn't safe for me to have money because every time I earned it, it would be taken away. A pattern I wasn't even aware of until I started tapping. As we tap, we'll acknowledge these beliefs, emotions, and patterns so we can begin releasing their hold on us. Let's begin. I invite you to find a quiet place where you can have some privacy. And start by grabbing your wrist, inhaling deeply, and exhale on peace. Bring into your awareness your feelings about money. Any shame of under-earning, or shame or fear about your savings account or debt or how much money you're making in the world. Just feeling into those emotions. The fear of asking for what you really want. And on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being the most intense, rate yourself. And now let's begin tapping. Repeat after me. Even though I have this pattern with money, always worrying, never having enough, I deeply and profoundly acknowledge this is my pattern. Even though I'm in debt or under-earning or overspending, I deeply and profoundly accept this pattern. This is what's going on with me. Even though I have this pattern of always being concerned about money, I accept myself. Third eye, I have this fear that I'm not good enough to be financially free. All these emotions around finances, fear, shame, frustration, anxiety. I've been carrying these beliefs for so long, and I'm ready to just let them go.
Talk about money trauma.
Yeah. Most of us don't even, like, when most people, when they think about trauma, they think about other things, like violence or an accident or a robbery or, something like that that happened. You don't normally look at this debt that you're in as trauma. You don't normally look at getting fired suddenly from a job or laid off from a job as trauma. You don't normally look at at a divorce as that affected you financially as trauma. But trauma is where we have become deeply scarred and impacted, where it has shocked our senses into in fragmenting our senses and hijacking our nervous system for whatever reason. And when you have money trauma, maybe you've had money trauma in your family when you were a child. I had a lot of money trauma in my family. I didn't know it was trauma. I just thought that it was like normal to like always be uptight and in fear and in desperation and anxiety around money, and that people that had money, that those were those other people. But to really acknowledge, wow, I this debt is traumatizing me. Looking at
Mm.
my income is traumatizing. Getting fired from that job is traumatizing. And when that trauma is held in your body, unacknowledged, and unaddressed, and not released, it's blocking the flow of the divine substance and supply that's always seeking to express through you is absolute lavish abundance. But it's like the knot in the water hose. The water is on, but the water can't get through to water the lawn because there's a knot in the water hose. And so we want to look at, where is my knot in the water hose and my energy hose around money, and then releasing the shame around it, releasing the belief that, oh, I'm selfish for even wanting to look at money. I shouldn't want a lot of money. There are just so many beliefs and so many emotions um, around this topic that, even people with a lot of money have trauma around money because, they're afraid of losing it, or maybe they grew
Mm.
up poor and it's like, oh, I never want to be that way again. So, there's a lot of energy to be released and to be healed there, so that we can come into conscious oneness,
Mm.
our true nature, our true identity of abundance. It is your birthright, it is your divine inheritance. So, yeah.
Mm. Yummy. That's so beautiful. So we have a few minutes left. So if you have a question that you want for Esther, please let us know now. And we have one comment from Facebook says, "Oh my God, such authenticity. You are giving me chills." So that is so fabulous. And so while we're waiting to see if anybody has any questions, let's talk about your acclaimed book, Soul Recovery, The 12 Keys to Healing Dependence.
Yeah. So, this book was originally released by Hay House, endorsed by Michael Beckwith and John Randolph Price and Colin Tipping, founder and author of Radical Forgiveness. And so, soul recovery, again, is about that. It's about pulling back the layers and rediscovering your authentic self, rediscovering your authentic self. And so it's the 12 steps reimagined. It's acknowledging and admitting the part of yourself that's in the problem is indeed powerless. So that's step one. But key one of soul recovery says, I am one with the infinite and I am all power. So it's getting your limited power out of the way so that you can tap into your infinite power that has always been the truth of who you are. It has journaling prompts. It has my personal stories in each chapter to show you how this step, how I applied this step in my personal life. It's a very raw, transparent book about my recovery journey, but it's not just a book about my story. It's a book about how to apply the steps from a metaphysical perspective in your life, um, and to give you action steps and journaling prompts and affirmations, and just taking you. So each step brings you to a higher frequency. Step one, step two, step three, bringing you back home. Soul recovery. The book
Mm.
is designed to recover your and rediscover your soul.
Mm. Love that. Love that you're a fellow Hay House author, and the journey of your book is so incredibly powerful. And it's just such a such a beautiful thing to see that you share the authenticity and the truth of your journey, and that in taking those pieces through and giving those step by step. So, what message would you most love to leave with someone watching this who feels disconnected from their light, or tired of trying, or afraid to begin again?
This is your time. That if you are watching this interview or you have any connection to it at all, that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and your soul is saying to you, it's time for you to remember who you are.
Mm.
You deserve to know who you are. You deserve to live the life that you were created to live, not the life that you've come to believe that you deserve, but the life that you really deserve.
Mm.
I want to say to you that you're enough. You're enough.
Mm.
You are worthy and you are deserving of everything good. That you are an expression of the divine. You are the beloved. You're enough. It's your time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And since before we end today, we have a couple more minutes, I'd love to ask one more question. Do you have a transformational story from someone that has gone through your work and that was like, wow, that you would love to share with everyone?
You know, we spoke about it earlier where you asked the question, what about people who are at the end of their rope and they've tried everything? And I shared with you, by the time people come to soul recovery, they're at the end of their rope. And even though that feels like the dark night of the soul, it is actually your beginning, because it means that you are surrendered at a level that you're ready to be, so that you can actually allow your true identity to be revealed. So one of
Mhm.
the transformational stories that I have is actually just about 5 months ago. Um, Someone who saw me speak um, got my telephone number and called me and said, I'm going to commit suicide this weekend. And I want you to have my daughter's number in case you don't, hear from me next week, that you can call my daughter. And at first, of course, I went through all the things of like, I'm going to call the hotline and get you the help that you need and all of that kind of stuff. And I said, and let's, start doing some tapping. Let's start doing some work together. And, I had his daughter's number and I did all of the things that I needed to do as someone supporting life. And then the next day I called him, and the next day I called him. And then the next week he started his soul recovery journey with me as a private client. And after about 30 days, he was unrecognizable. And he wants to live, and he's doing this work, and he's seeing the light, he's seeing the possibility. He feels lighter. He's not all the way on the other side yet, but he's not saying, call my daughter this weekend if you don't hear from me. And I think that's one of the biggest transformational stories that I have.
Wow. Ah, so powerful. Thank you, Esther. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your journey, and for recovering your soul so you could teach others how to go through soul recovery. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for a course in soul recovery. Esther's 21-day journey is available now on the Stream Plus platform. Join Stream Plus now and gain immediate access to this incredible program. You'll get access to the 21-day course and our other incredible spiritual teachers and programs. We're proud to say that Humanity Stream Plus is the largest global streaming platform for consciousness raising masterclasses and transformational education. We are a nonprofit, and we also give back with our one-for-one program, sharing our content with those who cannot afford the membership. I want to thank Steve Farrell, Dee Meyer, and the production team, Jim Gray, Garth Catterall, Kennedy Matheler, Karen Weiser, and Annette Kennedy, and the rest of the Humanities team, and especially today, thank you, Esther.
My pleasure. I love you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.